Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Back to the City. I'm Simon Calder, and today, on the eve of the release of 25 Years at ICEHOUSE, which is happening tomorrow, Friday the 14th of July, I'm excited to be joined by Dan Rodriguez. Welcome, Dan.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm really enjoying your presence in the Back to the City duplex.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be journeying through the 6 tracks on 25 Years, which is what you're releasing at ICEHOUSE tomorrow at 10 p.m. 10 p.m. is the time for people to head over to ICEHOUSE. Yeah. We're also going to be dipping our toes into the 2 previous LPs.
It's good to look back.
So, yeah, exactly. And the toe dipping metaphor, I think, relates especially well to Roaring Dan 2013, where there's a kind of nautical
There is a nautical theme through it,
I remember the first time I witnessed you perform, it was at the Astor Cafe. There was a kind of like songwriters night that you
like an in the round type of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I ended up doing that for my friend John Herkert from Dark Pony.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it. He was normally hosting and he couldn't do it one night. And he asked if I could do it. Were you playing on that?
No, I was checking it out that week and planning to try and play the following time. But you provided my induction to the Twin Cities singer-songwriter community.
Love it.
And I really remember one specific song, the title track, Roaring Dan, that you were playing, which is pirate themed.
It is pirate themed, yeah.
And there are no pirates. So the first thing that we're revealing about 25 Years is an absence of pirates.
There are no pirates in this record. It is a nautical pirate themed record.
It is. Yeah. So we'll be spending most of our time focusing on doing some close rummaging around to the soundtrack of and within the songs on 25 Years.
Great.
But getting a sense of how Dan Rodriguez has evolved and of the distinct character of 25 Years by a little bit of juxtaposition with Roaring Dan and with 2015's Come On Home, which was the most recent full length.
It is, yeah.
So what would you say if we've revealed that Roaring Dan was nautical and pirate themed? Home was definitely an important theme on Come On Home, as one might expect. There were a couple of songs referencing home, the title track, and then also I'll Be Waiting When You Come Home, which many people will know as the song in the Budweiser commercial.
Yeah, it was a Budweiser commercial that it was my first time ever have anybody offer me money for a song before.
And we just jump straight to Budweiser.
Yeah, and then they played it during the World Series and the Super Bowl, and it was great. It was cool.
There's a focus in the commercial on responsible drinking, of course.
Yeah.
The idea of the dog desiring their owner to come home safely. Friends are waiting, I think, is what it's called.
And that was the theme of that was the name of their PSA campaign.
Right.
Was Friends Are Waiting. Like, don't go drink and drive because your friends are counting on you to be there.
Yeah, including but not exclusively one's dog.
Dogs. Yeah.
So let's kind of just hover on that song for a moment before we really dive into 25 Years. They came to you,
it was actually there's a publishing company in town in Minneapolis called In the Groove Music.
Cool.
And my friend Katie Wohlers was working as an intern at In the Groove, and they had this brief come in for Budweiser, and they had their internal writers working on it, and then she, I think, went out on a limb and said, I think my friend Dan would be good for this. And so they reached out to me, and I was on the road at the time, and I was in a hotel in Iowa, and I said, I think I could do that, and I wrote a song.
When you were asked?
Yeah, when I was asked.
The night that you were asked?
Yeah, the day I was asked, I was in a hotel in Iowa, and I picked up my guitar. About 30 to 40 minutes later, I finished writing that song.
Very casual. You gave Budweiser.
Well, at that point, I had nothing to lose. I had nothing to. I didn't know. I didn't know what the gain would be. Mine, other than a little bit of exposure if a song got picked up, but I didn't know any details. I thought it was going to be one of those ads that play before you watch the video you were trying to watch on YouTube
Yes.
or something like that. And
people watching this are watching this on YouTube, so
Yeah.
they're well aware
that
of what
ad
you're
you
talking
skipped
about.
after 5 seconds, I thought this commercial was going to be one of those, and it turned out to be something much bigger. So I was very grateful. The opportunity came up, and I wrote the song, and they turned it in with their other songs that their staff writers had worked on, and just like everything in the music industry, lightning never really strikes twice in the same place. And but you know, they listened to all the tunes and they happened to like mine, and they chose it. And that's actually the reason I ended up putting it on the record, was because I had so many people asking about when, you know, where can I get that song? How can I have that? And at the time it was, well, that song belongs to Budweiser, and it still does. I had signed out all the rights. Don't ever do that. But the silver lining is that I was advised by my entertainment lawyer. He said, you know, you should do a compulsory license and re-record the song, and then you can put it on a record. And I said, what does that mean? He said, you can cover your own song. The version on the record is a cover of the original song that now belongs to Budweiser.
Wow. And the song that we hear in the ad is, of course, it's shorter than
It's
the one.
shorter,
on the
yeah.
record.
They chopped it up the way they wanted
Yeah.
to for the commercial.
So
yeah.
your cover of your song is the original extended version.
Yeah,
Your
that's-
cover's the original.
Yeah. The best part of that whole story is when I was trying to get it all figured out, because when you get a compulsory license, you have to pay to like 9 cents a track to the owner of the song.
Yeah.
And so I called Budweiser to find out, like, who do I pay, and I got to run around. I got put on hold a lot, and every time I got put on hold, that song was playing, and it was me singing to myself while I was on hold, waiting to find out who to pay for the song, so I could have the license. And oh man, it's just, that story just makes me laugh every time.
It is very much at home on Come On Home. There, I think it's perhaps not just in those two songs, Come On Home, which we can hear at the moment, and I'll Be Waiting, that there is this emphasis on homeliness. What would you say are the other kind of core attributes of that record?
Well, a couple of the tunes, not a lot of people know this, but I tried out for the voice. So there's a song called California on the record, and that talks about when they sequester you in a hotel and everything. And so I talked about being, you know, in this castle, and they're saying, you know, you can have all these things. If you were to get this far in the show, you could have this or that, and there would be this kind of exposure. And they're promising the world to you. Whether you can get a record deal, you can have all this stuff, and then and I was sitting there, and I was lonely, and I was thinking about my wife back home. Yeah. And you're there for 3 weeks. I was just thinking about all that, and I wrote that song because in the chorus the song says, without you, I don't want to be king. Like, I don't want any of these things without you. The song Storm on that record talks about there's a storm coming, and it's more you know, I was thinking about career-wise, things have been growing every year, and bigger opportunities keep coming along, and it's still true to this day. It keeps growing, and the not just the songwriting aspect or the shows grow, but the opportunities keep growing, and it's been really cool. But that song it's like there's a storm coming, and I need the gravity of your love to hold me and anchor me down, and that all of that really ties into this feeling of being home with my wife and not with my kid. And so there's a kind of, it's kind of sewn throughout the record.
It's so, how interesting. And so we have, back in 2013, the Roaring Dan, gin-soaked Roaring Dan, or liquor, some kind of liquor. Is it gin?
There's a lot of whiskey in that record. There's a lot of whiskey in Come On Home, too. There's no whiskey in the 25 Years record.
I noticed.
Yeah.
I noticed. So
I've been drinking less.
Yeah. You've been fathering more and drinking less.
Yeah.
So yeah, Roaring Dan is, you kind of at least embody the character Roaring Dan. Do you
Do you know the story about Roaring Dan?
Please, for anyone who doesn't know the story.
The short version, in 1908,
Yeah.
Roaring Dan, his name was Dan Seavey.
Okay.
And in 1908, he became the only person ever to be charged with piracy in the Great Lakes. It's an
What an
amazing.
achievement.
There's a crazy story, and the short version is he stole a boat that he had sailed on when he was younger, and by going on board and getting all the crew drunk that were keeping watch at night,
Okay.
and saying, I used to sail this ship and I brought some whiskey, let's drink, you don't leave till tomorrow, and they were all about it, and
Yeah.
he was taking fake swigs of whiskey all night. And when they all got drunk, his crew came on board and they threw them overboard into Lake Michigan, and they stole the ship and tried selling the cargo in Chicago the next day. Somebody said, that's not your boat, and he said, I won it in a poker game in Michigan. And they didn't believe him, and they called the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard ended up chasing him and his crew for 3 days across Lake Michigan. And they caught up to them, fired a warning shot, and he surrendered. Piracy was punishable by death back then. And the day before the hearing, the owner of the Nellie Johnson, the boat that he had stolen, had mysteriously disappeared. The charges ended up being dropped. And it was one of those catch me if you can like stories too, because later in life he ended up working for the Coast Guard to catch smugglers and other people who were potentially pirates and things. But then a lot of people say he was still doing that stuff on the side. And
Wow.
he wasn't a good man. He left
What
his
a
wife and
character.
kid in Milwaukee and went out to the Yukon Gold Rush to try to strike it rich. Failed. Came back to the Midwest and never went back to his wife and kid.
Yeah.
And it's just that he's just not a good guy.
What is it about that character that led you
That
to...
drew me to
that
it?
drew you to the song?
I first heard the story because I was in a bar in Milwaukee,
Okay.
and there's a bottle of rum that Great Lakes Distillery makes, and it's a rum made from maple syrup,
Okay.
and it's called Roaring Dan.
Oh.
And I read the story on the back of the bottle because I said, "Look, can I see that bottle?" And I read the story. I was fascinated. Then I went online and I looked more into the guy. I found somebody's essay, some paper on it, and then I went on my honeymoon and that year, and we went up north in the North Shore, and we went up to Grand Marais one day, and a big fall storm came through, and we couldn't even walk down the street. It was just wind was blowing like crazy.
Okay.
And I was watching Lake Superior, the waves on Lake Superior crashing over the pier,
Yeah.
and we watched this big boat get pushed into the rocks, and the Coast Guard had to come out and pull the boat out in the storm. And all I was thinking the whole time was, Roaring Dan sailed these seas in this old rickety wooden ship. And how crazy would that have been to see or be on that boat in a storm like this?
Yeah.
And that night we went back to our cabin, and I had my guitar with me, and I wrote that song, Roaring Dan, because I was just thinking about that whole story. Everything kind of came together in that moment for me.
How often do things come together in the moment? The Budweiser song and Roaring Dan?
I don't know. I think it's an artist
Give
thing,
me-
you know,
give
like
me a few hours.
and you might know. You said
Yeah.
you write songs and stuff,
Yeah.
so for you, it's the same. It's the same thing. You have an idea, you have something that's cool or inspiring or something you latch onto, and then the artist side of you wants to write a song about it, and so then it just ended up. It's just what came out.
Yeah.
And I really liked it, and then it kind of became the title track to the record. But there was some nautical themed stuff. There's another song called Open Sea that has a similar vibe
Yeah,
and
there
feel.
is.
And I love that record because the producer Luke Frederickson and I we did almost everything just ourselves. And I said, I don't want to do a big produced record. I want it to feel like we're sitting in the living room playing these songs. And he said we can do that and make it sound really big still. And he really captured that.
He did.
And so
Yeah.
my brother played piano on that. Dan Lewan played cello on it, and I think that was it. The rest was just myself and Luke Frederickson, the producer.
Yeah.
And I had so much fun on that record because from the production side of it, we were dropping a pillowcase full of change on a cardboard box because the wooden box didn't sound right, and the cardboard box gave in a little bit and the air whooshed out of it, and when it hit the microphone just right, it had this really deep, awesome, round sound to it.
Which
and
song?
that's Open Sea.
Open Sea, yeah.
And then we took the front casing off the piano, and I held all the pedals down with my feet, and with a screwdriver I was hitting the notes on the strings. I wasn't actually hitting the piano, I was hitting the notes. It has this really aggressive brassy tone to it.
Yeah. Is that Open Sea too?
That's Open Sea, yeah. And And so it's all stuff like that. Sonically, we created sounds that are you can't find anywhere. They're not manufactured sounds you can put into a computer. We really dove in and created sounds.
Yeah.
And sonically had this moody, vibey thing happening.
Yeah.
And I love that about that record.
So you had the ingenuity of Roaring Dan, but quite a different ethos.
Yeah.
You're a better man, I can tell you.
I was a pirate in a sense, like a sonic pirate. But yeah, no, I wasn't ruthless.
The idea of Roaring Dan is he's on the move.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really have a home. A pirate doesn't really have a home.
Right.
But Roaring Dan is conversely, I think, the one which draws most attention to its being of this place. So we have a song called Nicola Island. So the island is Nicola Island in particular, a solitary circle in the city that you and I could share.
Yeah.
With that record, I feel that there's a kind of openness. We can make anywhere our home in a way. Let's go to Nicola Island.
Yeah.
Let's go to Duluth. Let's go on a journey to Duluth.
Let's do it. Pack up the suitcase, grab the guitar, and go to Duluth.
Exactly.
We wrote that on the same honeymoon trip that we wrote Roaring Dan.
Yeah.
So I wrote Roaring Dan by myself with my wife present, but we wrote Duluth together.
Oh, wonderful.
So,
yeah. It sounds like a song that's written like with one's partner.
Yeah, and we got married at the Astor Cafe actually.
Oh.
The cottage that we had booked, the cabin we had booked, wasn't available until a day later, and so we got a place in Stillwater.
Yeah.
And that's where we stayed our first evening. I remember being in Stillwater and we were gonna pack up and go to Duluth, and I had the guitar was sitting out, and I just started strumming that and kind of singing it. And I said, "Help me write this. Let's finish this." And we wrote Duluth together.
So there seems to be a recurring focus on, as a songwriter, you have this moment of inspiration. You say, "Oh, this is the distinct sensation or feeling or moment that demands a song." That
You have to
truth.
grab that moment and harness that moment and then write the song.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to do before we had a kid. And when I always had a
The kid
guitar
doesn't
just lying
understand how
around.
inspiration works, the life of the songwriter.
He's selfish. He's more selfish than I am. When we had our son Oak, I lost my music room in the house, and we have a 2-bedroom house in Northeast Minneapolis. And I said, well, I need a place for to put my stuff, and I need a music room, and that's when I got a music studio, and I actually started cutting records and doing things like that too there, and that's been great. But the freedom to just any moment grab the guitar and play it is not there anymore. I have to. It's more of a this is the time set aside. I'm going to do that there.
Yep.
And that lightning striking inspiration still happens, but sometimes I feel like I have to work harder for it now.
Yeah, but you have to. There's all these other factors.
Yeah, you spread a little more thin, and that's okay. It's good.
Before you could postpone the journey to Duluth slightly, so as to write Duluth.
Yeah, we don't need to leave yet. We can finish writing the song. Yeah. Whereas now it would be, well, we got to get there by noon so he can go down for a nap, and then we got and you got to think about all those other things. And so you're right. There's less freedom. There's less freedom, but it's more liberating.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
What a good way to put it.